Look at this psyop, which I've said this before that I don't believe. I believe we're being played. That's what I believe. All right. A lot of this stuff looks like hoaxy. As a matter of fact, who was it? Was it the Common News Network was using like an AI version of this one? There's like several versions of Pretti, right? And this is Renee Good. Pretty good psyop is what it is. Now, there are people out there getting caught up in their feelings, and injecting their experiences into this, and saying, well, he was out there. Nurses. They save people on the spot, on the fly. If they see someone injured, because that's what they're trained to do. He wasn't there to help anybody. He was there to cause problems. So much so that even his parents said, don't go there, don't cause any problems, don't get in trouble with the law. What does he go and do? So the story goes. I believe a lot of this is just bullshit. It's fake. Designed to make us fight against each other. Which, I could easily argue against this with someone that this is spewing BS and nonsense. But I choose to just, instead of doing that and wasting my time in comment sections, all that, just show, once again, show you what's going on. He was not executed. This was not an execution, all right? This was not an attack on, with Don Lemon. And as far as Don Lemon is concerned, that's not an attack on journalism, because he's not a journalist. But let's take a look at this real quick.
From Molly Ploufkins on X, executed by the US government.
That's now fake then, news.
I know this channel tries to be quite light, it's more of a comedy channel than a serious news channel. Unfortunately, I want to have to be a little bit serious for a moment, because this hot take is all over social media at the moment. The amount of people who've even tagged me in messages and said, executed. One of the particularly brain-dead ones showed a picture of 4B2 being executed by, can't say the N-word, outside of those camps that they built. I think it might have been the big one in Poland. On his knees, getting shot in the back of the head before he drops into a ditch. And they were saying, look, it's exactly the same, by freezing the picture just before the shot went off. It's genuinely brain dead. And it's willfully ignorant. You don't have to be a combat veteran who's actually been in a gunfight before. I was fortunate enough to have been in about 100 because I did advanced to contact patrols in Helmand province. And I say fortunate because the American A-10s turned up on about a dozen of them and promptly scattered the enemy across the battlefield in an immensely gratifying display of good old American engineering over Bronze Age barbarism. So that was fun. One thing I wasn't, though, when an Afghan was emptying an AK-47 in my general direction, was very, very calm and relaxed. Yeah, it frays your nerves a little bit when a bloke's trying to fill you full of holes. So I'm going to play your BBC Verifies attempt at mitigating the situation and then tell you exactly what happened and explain exactly why it definitely wasn't an execution. Let's do it.
Jermaine struggled for years.
Okay, here we go. This is off BBC Verify. Unpicking the second Minneapolis shooting frame by frame. I'll play it. I will obviously provide more sensible and reasonable commentary than they do at select parts.
The first video we have of Alex Pretti, he's in the road, holding a phone and talking with a federal agent. The officer pushes him, and he steps backwards. Kristi Noem is US Homeland Security Secretary. This is her account of why Alex Pretti died.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently.
But in this video, as in others, Alex Pretti had nothing in one hand, a phone in the other. We see two people interacting with an agent. We then see an agent push one of those people, then push the second person. Alex Pretti steps between them and the agent and is pepper sprayed. He's wrestled to the ground by a number of agents. He's on his knees, bent over. His hands are on the floor, and he's struggling against being held down. One agent repeatedly strikes in the direction of his head. And take note of this agent. He has nothing in his right hand reaches down and removes what appears to be a gun from Alex Pretti's waistband. Then he steps back, holding the pistol, which appears to match this image shared by the authorities. Carrying this type of gun is legal in Minnesota with a valid...
Yeah, it's legal, but if you've got two brain cells to rub together, you don't take it to a protest. You do that if you're trying to give it Billy Big Licks to your mates in the pub beforehand and go, look what I've got. I'm taking a shooter to the protest.
Yeah, he's saying with his, I think, Australian accent. It's something that you might do, a bloke might do, is take it to the pub to show his friend, look what I got, look what I got. But you already know damn well that the climate is, and this is done by design, it's orchestrated, is already a violent climate. So why would you take a Second Amendment, a gun, to that climate, all right? To that scene. You're asking for trouble, is what you're doing. Because the cops will feel even more threatened. I mean, so the story goes, right? It's retarded. And that's what, this whole thing is retarded. It's so is Alex Pretti.
I've actually had people send me messages saying, so you're against the Second Amendment then? No. If you turn up at a protest where they're actually getting violent, increasingly so, and you turn up with a 9mm.
Yeah, they're already like getting severely violent with the ICE, right? Because that's what fake news is brainwashing these libtards to do. So, and then you go and show up with a gun to this protest and put yourself in the middle of this shit. What do you think's going to happen? Fucking retarded, man.
You are mental. You've obviously been brainwashed, pathologized by the political machinations of the governor of the state it's in. And you actually were thick enough to think it was a good idea to go armed to a protest. You need a firearm to protect yourself. For example, I've got one next to my bed, so if a couple of thieving little scroats burgle my house in the middle of the night, I can give them the good news, preferably without having to get out of bed. That's what they're for. If you turn up at a protest after what's gone on the last few weeks with a 9mm, you are brain dead. You are definitely brain dead.
Permit. The police say they believe Alex Pretti had one.
Believe he had one. The police say they believe he had one. No, he definitely had one, because we've all watched the footage. Yeah, so he did have one.
In a second after the gun is removed, an agent fires the first shot.
Let me press the pause button. You know, you don't even know what to believe anymore. That's why I don't like usually getting involved with shit like this. But I feel like I had to. And to show it one more time. Because you don't. We're so inundated with deep fakes, AI and stuff like that. I've been saying that for a long time. I've been saying that for the longest time. But, you know, we're just trying to work through all this nonsense, this clown world shit, aren't we? And in the end, I said we're being played. So regardless if this was real or if it's deep fake, perception is reality. A lot of people perceive this to be 100% authentic, that it really happened. And then they run on their emotions and shit like that. They're trying to play us. COVID didn't work. Race war didn't work. Muslim versus Christians so far hasn't worked. The alien invasion, well, that's pending. But they're trying right now before they have to really, really go all out with the fake alien invasion. We already had an alien invasion in the past 4 years on the Beijing joke burden, but they want to do a fake alien invasion from so-called outer space, which doesn't really exist. That's what's on the table, too, for the New World Order. They're trying to divide, conquer us in any way they can.
A second after the gun is removed, an agent fires the first shot. So the BBC are lying. Lying by omission, missing out the important details. Painfully obvious.
As Alex Pretti lies motionless, further shots are fired while agents are standing clear of his body. In total, 10 shots were fired in 5 seconds. In all of these videos, we don't see Alex Pretti holding a gun. But once more, we have...
Right, so they lied by omission, blatantly, obviously. You've all seen what actually happened. So, the short version is, this bit here, they explained it terribly. This bit here was when he started arguing and jostling with the agents. And he is being aggressive with them. They pull him to the floor, and straight away they see the firearm in his waistband. So if you're a copper, or if I was in Afghanistan and we were getting jostled by an aggressive Taliban fella, and as soon as he goes to ground with a few of the lads wrestling with him, we see he's got a firearm. The SOP is to get the firearm away from him as quickly as possible, as this fella does. And he shouts, gun, gun, gun. Secondly, it doesn't need explaining by anyone with a room temperature IQ or above. All those agents surrounding him, there's about 10 of them. They're not watching a slow motion camera after the fact. They just know that the aggressive bloke who they're all wrestling with has been pulled to the floor, and then they've heard gun, 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 gun. And then this is what happened which caused the shooting. As the agent takes the firearm off him, there's a negligent discharge, and to add a little bit more interest to the story, the firearm is a SIG. And only a couple of weeks earlier, I seen this on Reddit, there's been a lot of discussion about the Sig Sauer pistols apparently firing without a proper trigger pull. Some claim the P320's been discharged when they dropped it, which generally doesn't happen. Certainly doesn't happen with a Glock. However, ultimately, it's by the by. You've all seen the video in full about 10 times, I'm sure. I don't need to explain it too slowly for you. I'll just give you the bullet points. It wasn't an execution. The guy shouldn't have been shot, but everyone knows you're rolling the dice. The coppers aren't as well trained as like elite special forces teams. Everybody knows that. Any sensible person knows that you put your hands on the dashboard and you do exactly what you're told when you're dealing with coppers. Even me, a law-abiding civilian, if I get pulled over just randomly on a traffic stop, I do exactly what I'm told. I'm very slow and deliberate in my motions because I know that some coppers are a little bit badly trained and they might accidentally shoot me if given half the chance. So no one's saying that the bloke should have got shot in the head, but there are about 5 things here that explain how it could have happened, and it's not even that weird, really. I mean, I'll just reel them off. Loads of aggression towards law enforcement, turned up with a firearm, aggressive and jostling with law enforcement, followed by disarming and the federal agent shouting, gun, gun, gun. And then, what really caused it, the negligent discharge, or however it fired. Maybe it wasn't an ND, maybe it was one of those rare manufacturing issues. But whatever happened, the bloke turned up, got aggressive, he brought the pistol, he was disarmed, and then the pistol was discharged. And because you can't see every set of fingers when there's 8 blokes wrestling with an armed assailant, if you hear gun, 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 and then you hear a gunshot, it is understandable why all those guys would suddenly pull away from him and everyone would just empty the magazines in his general direction. That's about the size of it. The idea that it was an execution is definitely 100% ludicrous. And if I was in that situation, probably would have shot him as well. Probably. I wouldn't have seen everything. It's not happening in slow motion.
Yeah.
I'd have just
You know,
probably...
they say hindsight's 2020. It's easy to be an armchair keyboard warrior on the internet and go, oh, they shouldn't have done this, they shouldn't have done that. You're not in the middle of all this shit. All right? As it's happening, you try to make the best decisions possible based on what you experience and seeing. All right? It's easy to say, well, no, from this camera angle, I could see or he didn't have all right? It's bullshit. Unless you lived it, experienced, and were in this actual scenario, scene, this one, really got no say. Just like he said, this isn't happening in slow motion where they go, whoa, let me think, what should be the next best move? No, none of that. It's like real fast. All right?
If I was one of them ones packed around him, I'd have just heard gun, 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 and then 2 seconds later heard a gunshot and instantly went, better shoot the guy who isn't on my team then. That's a normal human response. Mm-hmm. I think any one of us could have made the same mistake, and it's a regrettable accident. The idea that it's an execution is preposterous. And the final point I'll make, probably the most important point, is succinctly summed up by Officer Lou there, who said, Alex Pretti got shot by feds after bringing a gun to a protest, resisting federal agents, and there was a gunshot. Unarmed Ashley Babbitt, a woman, an unarmed female, who was more than 10 feet away from the coppers, got shot in the head.
Yeah,
that is 10 times more of an execution than
Ashley
the
Babbitt
kinetic...
That's right. Ashley Babbitt was execution. She didn't even have any weapons. What do you say? She was shot 10 times?
Using suspect with a gun and there's a discharge series of events that I've just explained to you. Isn't it? I mean, again, any impartial observer, if you're just watching completely dispassionately from South Korea, you would assume that shooting was far more hard to explain than the ICE agents giving the baldy communist the third eye. So, I mean, what do you think? You think execution? Do you think if you were there and you heard gun, 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 you might maybe have squeezed the trigger at the aggressive suspect on the floor, because I know I would have done. And the final point I'll make is directed at this sack of rats. Governor Tim Walz. Walz, I don't care. First of all, look at that picture. Apparently, if an illegal immigrant was brought in by the parents and is a kid, and they have a nice cute bunny hat on, therefore the law doesn't count anymore. It says that on the books, doesn't it? It says coming into America illegally with no form of documentation or prior permission or visa is illegal, and you're not allowed to do it unless you're wearing a cute little woolly hat, and then you're allowed to do whatever you want. That's not the law, is it? Waltz is a self-serving shitbag politician who's been encouraging pathologized protesters who, it's not even their fault, is it? The baldy bloke who's just got the good news there, and that brain-dead boss-eyed bird from last week, it's not really their fault. Ever since Trump came down the escalators, the mainstream media and all these lefty politicians have literally spent 10 years properly brainwashing people. Like, they genuinely believe that the federal agents, they're just civil servants. Most of the people at ICE have probably been there for more than a couple of years. They precede Trump being in the White House. They were probably there when Biden was running the agency. They're just civil servants doing the job. But this lot have been convinced, because of shitbags like Waltz, that they're like the Gestapo. And if you genuinely did believe with every fibre of your being, because you watch too much TV, that they are the Gestapo, well, you can't blame them for being angry, can you? You can't blame them for being violent and aggressive towards them. Well, that's what they're doing. They're being violent and aggressive towards them. So the agents are going to do what agents have been trained to do, which is neutralise the threat. And occasionally people are going to get slotted. Another good point, at least 50 people got killed during deportations when Obama was the president, but you didn't hear anything about that. Looks like we're only at like 2 under Trump. So, I mean, he's got rookie numbers. He needs to add another 53, doesn't he?
Okay, say this is true. Children as young as 5 being detained. Are they illegal? Are they here with illegal parents? Well, then of course this is, if they're not going to just round up the fucking parents of the children. They're also going to take the children that are here illegally as well. It stands to reason. What are you going to do? Leave the children here without their parents? No, scoop them all up. They're illegal. Ship them out. That kind of makes sense. It does make sense. But they want to highlight, children as young as 5 being detained. Okay. Again, did they come through the border with their parents illegally? Yes or no? Yes, they did. Well, out you go. That's it. What are you going to do? Leave the kids roaming around without their parents? The parents get deported back to their native respective countries and leave the kids roaming around without parents? That's retarded. It doesn't make any sense. Of course the kids are going to get rounded up too. Of course. And they get all shipped back to where they came from.
If he wants to match Obama's record on people getting slotted during deportation proceedings. This is the key point. If you're thinking of going to a protest against these people who are simply enforcing the law, don't do it. Don't do it. You might end up getting filled full of holes. You'll have a very bad day. Write an angry letter, send me some nasty tweets, but don't turn up to an ICE operation with a firearm. I'm pleading with you not to do it, because you might be a lefty arsehole, but that doesn't mean I want to see you pissing blood all over the streets in the United States of America. All right?
Well, he's a better man than I am. Because
someone's got to clean it up. That's my tax dollars. I
wouldn't give a damn. They got what they deserve. That's the way I see it.
I don't want to have to pay someone to go and mop claret off the streets just because you're a fucking idiot. All right? Let me know what you think anyway. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you think it's an exit, please explain to me what you would have done in that situation. Why seeing arms and legs flying everywhere and then hearing a gunshot wouldn't make you slightly panic in that situation? Because I'm not seeing that. I don't think it's that.
I know, but you're gonna get the sheeple out there, keyboard warriors and shit, because they have all time in the world to figure out what they would have done and how they would have done it. Yet, in a real world, put in that situation, there's no telling what you might have done. You probably would have reacted just the way the ICE agents did, if this was even real, which I believe is pretty well. Good was the first one, and pretty is the second one. So it's pretty good, right? Pretty good. Looks like false flags, psyop, and we're crisis actors.
unfair.
Well, it looks like
and
to
I
me.
don't think I'd even fire the copper who slotted him. But that's just my opinion. You are free to disagree, as always. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.
Yeah, keep your comments civil and respectful, damn it.